Okay, so here's a quick little video just going over two examples of how we can sort of extend this idea of expanding brackets. So I've got a question here about finding the area, and then I have some questions here where I have more than two things inside one of the brackets. So let's take a look to see what to do. So for this first one, we're being asked to calculate the area of the following. Now remember, our area of a rectangle formula is the length times the breadth. And if this was just a normal rectangle, if that was a 5 and a 2, we would know to do 2 times 5 to give us 10. And the idea is the exact same, even though we've got some algebra in there. Now, the one thing you must always make sure you do is when you see a little group representing a length or something, put brackets around it. So I'm going to put brackets around these because that's going to save us some potential errors from occurring. So my length times breadth, it doesn't matter what way round I write them, I'm going to have my two brackets multiplied. Now, I can put a little times sign in here, but the fact that I have brackets directly next to each other already means they're being multiplied, so I don't actually need that. So I can see here, I've got two brackets next to each other, and realistically the rest of my question should say simplify your answer. So we're going to go on and simplify this by expanding it. So following our rules for expansion, we break apart our first bracket, and then the second bracket sits next to it. So I've got x times x, which is x squared, x times 3, which is going to give me 3x, 7 times x, which is 7x, then 7 times 3 is 21. And then collecting my like terms together, so I've got 3x plus 7x, well 3 plus 7 is 10, so that's going to be 10x. So my final answer is x squared plus 10x plus 21. Okay, so same idea for question 2. So remember, we're doing our length times breadth. I'm going to put my brackets in around my little expressions for each side. So I'm going to have 3c minus 1, 2c plus 5. And expanding my bracket, breaking apart the first one, so I've got 3c minus 1, and then 2c plus 5, 2c plus 5, and then 3c times 2c, well 3 times 2 is 6, then c times c is c squared. 3c times 5, well 3 times 5 is 15, and then there's just going to be that c. Minus 1 times 2c is going to be minus 2c. Then minus 1 times 5 is going to be minus 5. And then collecting my like terms together, I've got 15c, take away 2c. Well, 15 take away 2 is 13, so that's going to be 13c. Alright, so that's how to tackle with an area question. You just apply your normal understanding of how to calculate an area of a rectangle, and then you just have to use your expanding knowledge to complete the question. Okay, so what to do when we've got 3 things inside one of the brackets? Well, it's the exact same. You don't need to do anything different. So I look at that first bracket and I break it apart. Give myself a little bit more space. And then next to it, I'm going to have my second bracket. So I've got x times x, x times x squared, and that is going to be x cubed. X times 4x, that's going to be 4x squared. Then x times minus 2, that's going to be minus 2x. Then 3 times x squared, that is going to be 3x squared. 3 times 4x, or 3 times 4 is 12. So that'll be 12x. Then 3 times minus 2, that's going to be minus 6. And then collecting my like terms together. So I do recommend, especially when it's one of these longer ones, sort of having a highlighter or underline in different colours your like terms. So I've got x squareds, and I also have x's. So those are all my like terms. So my x cubed is left alone. Then I've got 4x squared plus 3x squared. Well, 4 plus 3 is 7, so that's going to be 7x squared. Then I've got minus 2x plus 12x, or minus 2 plus 12, that's going to give me 10. So that's going to be 10x. Minus 6 on the end there. Okay, let's just split that down there a bit. Okay, so let's look at this last question then. So splitting apart that first bracket, so I've got 5y minus 2. So I'm going to have 2y squared minus 3y plus 5. 2y squared minus 3y plus 5. Expanding those brackets, I've got 5y times 2y squared. Well, 5 times 2 is 10. Then y times y squared is going to be y cubed. Let's make that a bit clearer. Then I've got 5y times negative 3y. So that's going to make a negative first. Then 5 times 3 is 15. And then y times y is going to be y squared. Then 5y times 5. Well, 5 times 5 is going to give me 25, and then that y is going to stick on the end. I'm just going to quickly move this over just so I could, oh, didn't mean to take that y with me. Just going to move it over a tiny bit because I wrote those numbers a little bit big and I'm going to run out of space otherwise. There we go. Okay, so now I've got minus 2y times 2y squared. Well, firstly, it's going to be a negative. Then 2 times 2 is 4. And then I'm going to have that y squared. Minus 2 times minus 3y. Well, double negatives make a positive. Then 2 times 3 is 6. And then I'm going to have my y. And then negative 2 times 5. That's still going to be a negative. And then 2 times 5 is 10. These are questions where people frequently forget about this negative. And a lot of people forget to keep applying it after the first one. Make sure you're always saying to yourself when you're doing this multiplication, it's negative 2 I'm multiplying, negative 2 multiplied by this, negative 2 multiplied by that. It just helps you keep track and constantly remind yourself that you are dealing with a negative. Okay, so collecting my like terms now. So I've got a negative 15y squared and a negative 4y squared. I've got a 25y and a 6y. So, negative 15 take away 4. That's going to give me negative 19 y squared. Then 25 plus 6, that's going to be 31 y. And that's how to deal with these slightly more, I want to say expansion questions, how to deal with these sort of, the next sort of steps with expanding brackets. Let me know if there are any issues, and good luck with the work.